Good evening, everyone. This is Brandon with Archie Cinema doing another review. Today I'm going to be talking about the documentary Butterfly in the Sky, which details the landmark show Reading Rainbow. It's going to be a pretty short review here. We're going to kind of just give my thoughts on the documentary right after this. All right, so Butterfly in the Sky. This is the new documentary chronicling the iconic show Reading Rainbow, which was on TV from 1983 and went off the air in 2008. First and foremost, I want to say, for those of you that grew up on Reading Rainbow, you're definitely going to love this documentary. It's total nostalgia, going back to all the memories that you had watching the Reading Rainbow and the children reading the books, and you go into your local library trying to find those books, etc., etc. So just from that standpoint, if you were a fan of Reading Rainbow, you'll definitely love this documentary. Outside of that, there's also a room for people who might not have never heard of Reading Rainbow, because a lot of people just didn't grow up on it, or they never saw it, they're not really familiar with it. This is also a documentary worth seeing, as far as there's so many shows that come on TV back and forth, and not too many shows go into detail about the actual process of creating your show from beginning to end, from it going to the screen. So it goes into that also. I'll get into that a little bit later, more intensively a little bit later. Also, now coming up with the idea, the creators, given the landscape of what was going on at the time, this is the early 80s, 83. At that time, television had taken over. Television was the medium for really everything that was going on, how people got their news. Teachers were trying to get children to try to learn with it. Unfortunately, reading comprehension kind of went down as a result. These are early stages of video games. So the idea for the creators were to use television as a conduit to make reading fun for kids again. And this is just the idea that they came with. Nobody knew whether it was going to work. They're getting to deal with PBS, so that's government funded. So, you're just trying something. The next process was finding a host. They went all over trying to look for a host. They just couldn't find one until they, came across LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton was fresh off of Roots, which was the classic television series. Won all kinds of Emmys when it came out. I believe at the time it had broken records for viewership. So they brought LeVar Burton on, didn't know whether it was going to work or not. So they put him out there, and once they got the pilot on and it worked out, it was like, boom, it was an instant success. Everything changed for them. It was an overnight success, just a phenomenon, like overnight. They talk about, the impact in a positive way, how reading comprehension went up 800% after Reading Rainbow came out, how kids would actually play shows of Reading Rainbow for their students in school, and just the impact that it had. It also talked about how Reading Rainbow was on the cutting edge of everything, because LeVar Burton, they had him traveling all over the world, going into different types of cultures, and there was always a book that matched up with what he was talking about at the time, or where he was visiting to, whether it was in the States or overseas. He always had a book that correlated to that, so they go into that. Also, some interesting interesting part of the documentary is watching the children that were on Reading Rainbow now growing up, and talking about how it affected their life, this, that, and the third. A couple of surprises, like Alicia Reyes from the show All That, she was on there. That was her first acting gig, I believe, as well as Kenny Blank from Boomerang and the show Parenthood. So these are their first television appearances, and so seeing the children from these shows who gave summaries on books are now grown. So that's something else that's interesting to watch on TV. Also, they went into LeVar Burton, how he basically grew up on the screen, how he was a young man initially coming on, and how he was initially clean shaven, but they had to let LeVar be LeVar. When he grew a beard and got an earring, things like that, that he just had to express himself with and be himself. But that made him that humanized him more instead of just being a host and that's it, so to speak. Like he was a human. He wasn't going to be, what everybody wanted every day. He wasn't going to be the clean shaven guy per se. He was going to just be himself. So they talked about that. Also, they talked about the different money struggles that they had. Because like I said, this was government funding. This wasn't like Sesame Street, to where Sesame Street is actually made billions of dollars off their own company with, they had Sesame Street toys and Sesame Street books, all these different products within their company that can make money. Whereas Reading Rainbow were on their own. They were just a show that was funded by the government. You didn't have anything to sell to really help it make money. Also, they went into pretty interesting part to where the government was going to cut funding for these types of shows. So Reading Rainbow would have been taken off the air earlier. And how LeVar Burton had to actually go to Capitol Hill to speak about how, hey, you guys are making a mistake about possibly pulling this funding. How I saw this show just change kids' lives, change people's lives, and and just his passion about not getting off the air. So they go into that also. And like I was saying, even if you're not a fan of the show, the process of making a film and the ins and outs of that, they go into detail with that as well, as far as their extensive camera work, how important that was, the editing process and how difficult that was, also how they were just really a fast, they had become so structured, they were just a fast company, how their camera work would be fast. It would run out fast to a scene. Like they were in Hawaii, I believe a volcano was supposed to erupt. They missed it. The volcano erupted. They literally grabbed their cameras on the spot and ran to the area where the volcano was and filmed it. So how they had to be on the run for that. Also, they talk about the production of the theme song, how the producer, what ideas he was coming with, what sounds he used, and the structure of it to get the song made. They go into that also, and development of that. So it goes across the board with that. So that's pretty much it. This is a fantastic documentary. I think everybody should check it out, but this is a real short review, but definitely Butterfly in the Sky, definitely check it out. Excellent documentary, and you'll definitely enjoy it, I believe. All right, you guys take care. Have a nice night.